figures out show that GPs are being forced to care for, this is unbelievable, more than 2,000 patients each because of NHS staff shortages. That's because more than 3 million patients have been registered in the past 5 years, but the number of fully qualified GPs has fallen by over 1,000. So the big question is, where have all the GPs gone? I mean, where were they, James? Where have they disappeared? What's happening?
Well, I think we've got a whole range of situations which are all coming to roost at once when it comes to dealing with our healthcare. Of course, we've seen a huge amount of pressure during the pandemic, and people have retired, they haven't been replaced. We've probably seen people going perhaps back to elsewhere. Perhaps they'd been settled over here and they decided that they didn't want to live in the UK anymore, so they've gone perhaps elsewhere. But actually, we haven't been enticing people into the profession for a long period of time. If you think how long it takes to study and then to become a GP, the huge amount of work. And also, I think we have a very difficult relationship with money in this country. And as soon as somebody's paid 80, 90, 100 or more £1,000, we suddenly think, oh, it's too much, we can't possibly allow it. Think about how the most important thing that we have is our health. If that doesn't exist, we no longer exist. And we have a problem with paying people the proper amount of money. So we train them, and then they go and live abroad because they have less pressures, less harassment, less bureaucracy to deal with, and probably a better quality of life. And people do respect and say that the NHS training is some of the best in the world. Well, so I think we've got to get back to this. We've got to train more doctors and make it more enticing.
Nick,
we've got to get over the money.
Nick, can I just say, if you train, we did this about dentists the other day, surely if a GP is trained by the National Health Service and, in effect, by the taxpayer, shouldn't they be made to stay here, to actually practice what they've learned?
I don't know what the ethics are around that, but also I'd probably argue that we take in a fair amount of foreign doctors from other countries so that it might possibly be balanced out. But look, I think that GPs are undervalued and massively overworked at the moment. We're saying one GP for every 2,000 people in some areas. In some areas in the northeast, it's one GP for every 3,000 patients. We need far more funding in the NHS. We should recognise GPs as specialists, actually, because they're not, at the moment, recognised as specialists in primary care. Give them the respect that they deserve. Look back 2 years. On Thursday nights, we were all giving it the clapping on the doorsteps at 8 p.m, but we're still not giving GPs pay rises. It's absolutely outrageous. And the skill set that it takes for a GP to have a person walk into their office and not know what on earth is going to come out.
And 7 minutes, let's be honest, sorry, 7 minutes is not enough time, is it, to provide the quality care, Aisha,
Oh, absolutely. Right? I mean, I feel I've got quite a lot of experience in this because my dad, being an Indian immigrant, of course, is a GP. And that's what we do. And don't worry, my brother's now an orthopaedic surgeon. It's like this, so we've moved up in the world.
I want to know your family before over.
But I always remember my dad saying, and I looked at his journey, he's retired now, he was a brilliant, brilliant local community doctor. And I think one of the things that has really changed is so much bureaucracy has gone in to the GP. So it's not a joy to do. You're not the local, well-respected family doctor anymore, where you would know families, you would know generations of people in that family. People used to come into my dad's surgery. He knew from granny right down to the newborn. He knew them all. And I think that's taken a lot of the joy out of being a GP, and it's really bad for the patient as well, because there is such a shortage. It's often locum doctors that come through. And you're so right about the time thing, Jeremy. You cannot get in and out in 7 minutes. And a lot of local GPs, particularly in inner city areas where there's a lot of deprivation, a lot of pressure, they say half the time they're not even being doctors, they're being social workers.
Yeah. Totally agree with everything you said there, Aisha.
Sorry.
And actually, I've got it written down here, around half of UK GPs said they'd seen GPs leave the profession in the past 5 years due to unmanageable workload, while 48% said they quit because of mental health issues or burnout.
Yeah, it's terrible. But I want to go back to something that you said a moment ago about foreign doctors. I think that is a fantastic immediate solution. In 2003, we had the bilateral agreement with the Philippines when we had a nursing shortage. We got loads of them in.
How ethical,
and now,
though, I mean, you know, so we solve our problem. Let's just go and bung some money. We'll take all their doctors. We're fine now.
Well, look,
but of course, the problem is shortage somewhere else.
James, as long as we're going to take some doctors, we're then going to send immigrants to Rwanda. So it balances out in the end, doesn't it?
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But also, the Philippines is actually set up. It's part of their export. I mean, they do literally train people up to go and work in other countries and send remittances back to their family in the Philippines.
I think we should all one thing we would agree agree with whatever money they put into the black hole that is the NHS. It should be spent on doctors and nurses and medical equipment, not computers and brainstorming sessions and people who say, I've done a big survey and it's cost £250,000 to say we need more doctors. Well, pay for them, I would think.